It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to go follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Go check out our YouTube. And while you're over on the YouTube or a listening platform, go to the description, check out some of the links that we have in there. Our first link is our year 6 of Rocking Around the 412, our Christmas GoFundMe. It's crazy that we are almost in December. As of recording this, it's November 29th. We're almost to December. Every year, it feels like it flies by so much. But if you want to, you can go click on that link, read about the mission. Over the past 5 years, we've been able to raise over $25,000. And including what we've raised so far this year, we hit another milestone. We've been able to raise over $30,000 in the first 6 years of this mission to be able to go to children in our local 724 and 412 area codes, which is absolutely nuts. I don't think Smitty or I thought that it would ever get this big when we started it. We started out the first year helping out a local place in Aliquippa, and it grew and grew, and it's continued to grow. And we thank all of you so much for the support. But yeah, $30,000 in the first 6 years of this mission is awesome, and obviously want to continue to grow that. So if you're interested in that, or you haven't donated yet, or if you're interested in sharing it, we have a link in the description of each of these shows on the listening platforms and on the YouTube. We've got a second link as well. Actually, 2 other links. We've got an Etsy and a Facebook link for everything custom designs. Our friend Haley Wagner, it's her small business. If you want to go check those out, we've got a lot of holiday stuff going. I've seen on her Facebook that she's posting a lot of Christmas stuff, whether you like the Grinch, you like Home Alone, whether you like a customized stocking. We were wondering if that was going to be the case. I saw that last week she posted that she is doing those. So if you want to get ready for Christmas time, go hit her up. She'll get you hooked up with all of her stuff. And you don't need Christmas clothing, and you need some sports apparel, Pittsburgh apparel, whatever you're looking for, she can hook you up. So go check out the Facebook link and the Etsy link. All of those links will be found in the description of each of these shows moving forward.
I'm glad that you said about the GoFundMe, the Rock Around the 412 first, and it gave me some time, because if people are watching on YouTube, they're going to be able to tell probably, I don't know if you could, my eyes were getting a little bit watery there, especially when you mentioned the $30,000 thing. I mean, when we started this in 2018, and like you said, we raised about $1,500. The money went to a 24/7 pediatric center in Aliquippa, which was awesome. But like what it's grown into since then, the amount of people that we get involved with it every single year. Christy, who owns a bar, actually, I got to be able to give her a proper shout out. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look up what this establishment is. But like Keeks, it's going to be another place where we're going to have Big Swickley Creek Brewery. Is the name of this place? Big Swickley Creek Brewery. Yeah, that got me the first time.
Big Swickley Creek.
It is it's an economy borough, so go check that out. We put it on Facebook that they're gonna be doing that as well. But from the 10th to the 12th, I believe, you're going to be able to drop off a donation there. And if you do that, she'll get your information. You'll still be eligible to win some of the prizes that we do. But between, that, Keeks, Kaylee and Isla's involvement, the way that this thing has grown over the last couple of years, the amount of people that want to be involved with it, the school, I was on here complaining about the school a couple weeks ago. I had the nurse from Central Valley reach out to me because they had a family that they thought would fit the criteria. So we're going to be able to help out a local family, which is great to do along with the Salvation Army stuff. And she also made a donation through my mom today. So, again, like that's what gets me is the amount of people, that rally together to be a part of this thing along with us. We always talk about it like we're kind of the vessel, we're the ones that put it together and stuff, but everybody that donates is where the money is coming from to be able to provide this Christmas for the people. And it's getting to the point now, I showed Tyler right before we started recording. I got like literally just outside of my camera shot here, and I'll switch the camera shot so you guys can see it real quick. You can see that there's starting to be boxes coming into my camera here. The thing is that starts basically like against the wall, and it's already gotten to this point. I still have the gifts for 3 more kids coming here for the Salvation Army stuff, and then these 3 little girls of this family I'm talking about. So we will see how much space I have to do this whole podcasting thing within the next couple days. Next week's episode, very interested to see how that's going to go. But it's all worth it. It's great. Absolutely love this mission. We talked about it all the time. It's our baby. I get emotional talking about it, as I said. So I'll stop there. But again, the link to donate down below. If you want to be involved strictly with the Salvation Army stuff, you only have a couple more days. Actually, this will be the last episode we record that you guys are able to donate to that, because those need to cut off on the 1st, because we need everything ordered before everything needs to be here by the 7th, because the drop off is the 8th for that. So we need to make sure everything's done before December 8th for that. As far as for just in general, for this family that we just recently got, and we'd like to be able to try to find at least one more family, we can take donations up until the 11th. I set a hard date of the 11th. That gives me 2 weeks to know exactly the amount of money that we have to work with and who we can help out. So as Tyler mentioned in the description of this show, that's where the GoFundMe is. You can read the full mission there. We give you like a brief rundown at the beginning and end of every show, but the full mission statement is always going to be found at the GoFundMe, which is our pinned post on X. The description has it as well. All that good stuff. Tyler, we weren't here last week to do a Steelers show. And
I know.
Coincidentally, something pretty big happened last week that would have made sense to talk about. But, with Thanksgiving, by the way, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I think Thanksgiving maybe was a little bit sweeter for Steelers fans, knowing that Matt Canada relieved of his duties following that Cleveland Browns game that we didn't talk about. They lost. That's far in the past. I don't even know that it makes sense to bring up anything from that game at this point. Matt Canada relieved of his duties of offensive coordinator. I think there was a lot of intrigue into what that first game without him would look like against Cincinnati. And to be honest with you, as much as I obviously did not want Matt Canada to be the offensive coordinator of this football team anymore, I kind of thrown off by the timing of when they decided to do it. I felt like at this point, let's just ride it out through the season. But with what they showed on Sunday, I disagree with myself for having that point of view, because you can't measure the morale of the players. I think that was up. Like, these guys seem to play with a higher level of confidence. That's something that we couldn't measure. Like, we could sit here and say, man, if you don't have a guy that really has experience, and I know that Mike Sullivan has called plays before, but he doesn't even have as good of a resume as Matt Canada. So you have him and you have Eddie Faulkner as co-offensive coordinators. Really questioning myself was, at the time this move being made, they go out on Sunday, have 421 yards of offense, first 400-yard game since week 2 of 2020. Now, only 16 points, so obviously there were still plays left out on the field. But from an execution standpoint, they used the middle of the field. Pat Freiermuth led the league in receiving yards this past week, took some deep shots. I feel like despite scoring 16 points, very clearly something was different about this offense. What do you think?
100%. I mean, and even if you want to go just specifically to Kenny Pickett, I don't know what it was about him. Maybe it was the passing chart. We all saw the post-game passing chart
first game this year with his completion percentage above expected, positive. First time this year.
That's a plus. And then if you look at that passing chart that he had, there were several shots over the middle, including the first reception of the game, a shot to Pat Freiermuth immediately over the middle. They wasted no time showing that they were not going to be afraid to target over the middle of the field. And it definitely helps that Pat Freiermuth was back as well. But there was just something about Kenny specifically that, now, he didn't have a perfect game, obviously. He didn't turn over the ball, but he didn't have a perfect game. But there was just something that felt like his swagger was back, his confidence was back a little bit. Like, he didn't seem like the same quarterback that we had rolled out for the previous weeks, all pretty much all season. It seemed like the one thing that we always said that Kenny is not going to lack is confidence. And I don't even think we realized or even thought necessarily that he was lacking confidence in the games leading up to this one during this season. But I think that watching this game, I realized maybe he was lacking something with his confidence. So. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it just seemed night and day different. And that's how the offense felt as well. I mean, the way that they were moving the ball, the way Najee was running the ball, he had a great game as well. I just think the offense just it was almost like a weight lifted off their shoulders. And listen, it's not personal. This is nothing against Matt Canada, but I feel like Matt Canada was a weight bearing down on everybody on that staff's shoulders. And I think that not even just from a necessarily his actual role as a play caller and everything, but just like the tension that it probably brought eventually in the locker room. And I don't know how much truth it came from it, but they said there was rumors that this firing came to save the locker room basically from the players. And then even after the game the previous week, you could see in some of the responses in the post game, like players were kind of hesitant to actually say things.
Well,
and whenever that happens,
Najee was a guy that was backing the coaching staff earlier in the season, saying the players need to just go out there and execute, like coaches coach, players play, and basically had the coaches back. A little bit different tune after that Cleveland game, in my opinion, where, he spoke out, Diontae spoke out, and I think that's kind of what they were getting at. And then we see Canada relieved of his duties 2 days later.
Yeah, I think that he probably was starting to lose the locker room. I mean, I don't know how you can have that inefficient of an offense and continue to do that way, especially in the weeks like leading up to his firing. You started to see like individual guys have better games, especially in the run game. The Steelers started to figure things like that out. So for a guy like Najee to have his tune changed, I don't think that is surprising, because he's like, well, I've started executing. The offensive line has started to execute, but we're still not moving the ball. We're still not putting up points. And did they put up points in this game? Obviously, no. But I think that this is something to build off of the more to come. I honestly think that them breaking the 400-yard mark is almost like whenever you have like a scoring drought in hockey, where it's just like once they get one, I just feel like they're going to get more. And I feel like that could be the case with the offense. Like, obviously, I don't think they're going to turn into the Eagles or the Chiefs when it comes to offense. But I do think that you might find more consistent play in the opposite offense. You're going to find more consistent play in Kenny. And I hate to say it was all off of one guy, but you saw the difference just in one game, what that made. Because we were saying that it wasn't all Matt Canada. It still isn't all Matt Canada because the offense wasn't perfect. But I think you saw how much of an impact it actually was of Matt Canada just from that one game that they had without him.
Yeah, it wasn't all on Matt Canada from the perspective of the play calling stuff. But we cannot measure. There's no way to do it what the trickle down effect was of him being the offensive coordinator and him still being around this coaching staff daily, being around these players. Morale clearly hit the lowest that it could get, in Tomlin's opinion, to have to make this move. Unprecedented move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The confidence thing I think is interesting, because I do think that there's starting to be a lack thereof from Kenny. But the question is it within himself, or is it within the offense that he didn't have confidence in their ability to move the football and, see what was there? Because again, you could go back, you could watch the tape, you could see the guys were open and Kenny just wasn't hitting them for whatever reason. But was there something deeper than the fact that just like his accuracy, for whatever reason, something that we would have never questioned about Kenny coming into the 2023 season, all of a sudden went haywire? Like, how do we measure the intangible versus the tangible things, which were playing into all of these things with the offense? You brought up Najee Harris too. Fantastic game. I felt like we were kind of due for one of those ones where Najee Harris was the better back than Jaylen Warren in this one. Fumble aside, I think Najee Harris was far more effective in this one than Jaylen Warren was. 30-some yards over expected for Najee Harris. But I just think they found an identity. It has started to work now. 4 straight games with over 120. Is it 125 or 150 rushing yards? Either way, they're shooting for their 5th straight one against Arizona on Sunday. But with what they've started to do on offense, I'm not saying for sure that the points are all of a sudden going to come, because I think it's a different beast being able to execute in the red zone as opposed to in between the 20s. But it's like it's building blocks. Like with how low they were offensively, the next step was to find an identity. They found their identity in the run game. Okay, this is what we want to do. Can we go out there and execute it? Now they've executed it for about a month straight. Sunday, they add a little bit of a passing attack to that. Kenny really, really solid. 278 yards. I know he didn't throw a touchdown. He did throw a touchdown, but it didn't get rolled a touchdown. They didn't challenge it. But really good outside of that. Got the tight end involved. Use the middle of the field. There's building blocks here. It's not happening as fast as we would like, but we know that their defense can keep them afloat until they figure out whatever it is fully to get this offense going. So I'm super encouraged by what they did offensively. It doesn't change my entire outlook of this team, but with the schedule they had, I thought they were going to be, an 11 or so win team anyway with what they have the rest of the way. But it gives me more confidence in their ability to win a playoff game. And the reason being, and TJ talked about this, and I want to get your take on this too. TJ talked about, and I wouldn't have thought about this, the time of possession. The Steelers for the first time this season won the time of possession as well in this one. And what that allowed them to do was only play 43 defensive snaps. When you're able to keep those guys on the defensive side of the football that fresh, how much more effective can they be? Like TJ thinks there's still another level to unlock with this defense because they've had to play, 65-ish snaps. That dropped down to 43 on Sunday. And they're about to get Minkah Fitzpatrick back. They've had Minkah, TJ, Cam, and Highsmith for all of 2 series this year in the 49ers game. Then Cam was hurt. And then Minkah was hurt by the time Cam came back. So they haven't had these guys all together. How good can they be if they're only on the field? If the Steelers are able to, if their offense maybe not put up points, but own time of possession because of how well they run the ball, how good can this defense be? I don't think we've seen it yet.
I don't think so either. I think it'd be really good. And I don't think the Steelers are the only one plagued by that, with an offense's inefficiency really wearing down on the defense. I mean, look at what I think happens in New York all the time with the Jets. The New York Jets have a stellar defense, but as games go on and your defense is constantly on the field, eventually the team's going to break through. They're going to wear them down. And I feel like the Steelers, that happens too often this season. I mean, think about how many 3-and-outs we've had this season, that your defense gets maybe 2 minutes of a break. And if they're lucky, they get like 4 or 5 because there's a TV timeout. But in reality, they're not getting a ton of breather. They're not staying fresh, and they're constantly on the field. Luckily, there's a lot of skill, so it hasn't absolutely killed the team. But like you're saying, think about how good the defense and this team could be if the offense does sustain these drives. And I think that finding the run game is going to be able to do that and continue these drives more. Being able to have that confidence on offense, that's going to be able to continue these drives more. Having confidence with Kenny Pickett, that's going to be able to continue to do that more. I think that you're showing signs that they're making a turn in the right direction offensively to be able to help your team out defensively, to have the right combination of who should be on the field for what. And also 43 snaps to me. I saw you tweet, was it about Trenton Thompson saying that he played 100%
no, he played 42 of 43. He played 100%
42 of 43.
Yeah.
42 of 43. When you said they had 43 defensive snaps, at first I was like, is this a typo? Like, there was no way that they played that little on defense. But in reality, they did. I mean, they won the time of possession, and that matters in games like this. That matters with a team that is set up to win that way, where they're, like you said, they're finding their identity. I think their identity is to ground and pound, run the football, be able to pass when you need to. But I think that the Steelers are best set up to really dominate the clock and dominate time of possession. And then your defense is just going to suffocate people. And especially when you get all of your key players back, like you have Minkah hopefully coming back this week, that defense is built to suffocate people. And especially if they're all healthy and they get the breathers that they need to during the games, I mean, sky's the limit for this defense. I think that they are only going to get better from here. Obviously, when you're like 2/3 of the way into the season, you would like to have had more of that so far. Yeah. But considering where the Steelers are in the place that they're in, they're still in a playoff hunt. I think that they are in a really good place right now and figuring out at the right time. If they're going to be able to do what a lot of teams do, where they get hot at the right time and take that into the playoffs, I think that now and what they showed on Sunday is a great start to what is hopefully going to be a great future for the rest of the season.
I don't believe in jinxes. If it doesn't happen, I'll put out this clip on my own and everybody can roast me. The Steelers are making the playoffs. Like, what seed it's going to be, I don't know. They're making the playoffs. With where they're at right now, with the remaining schedule they have an 81% chance of making the playoffs, and that's before they play Arizona, New England, Indianapolis without Jonathan Taylor still on the schedule. The Seahawks look very different with the way that Geno Smith has played, clearly banged up. Don't know if he's going to play tomorrow night, the time of recording this, against Dallas, but who knows where that team's going to be. And let's face it, Lamar, who the Steelers have had their success against for sure, has played every game this year. You think that's going to continue? We know at some point he's not going to play. He played the first game against the Steelers. You think he's going to play both games against the Steelers? So Steelers, very favorable schedule down the stretch. They're making the playoffs. There's nothing more damning about what we said with the defense in terms of, okay, listen, they're 24th right now in terms of yards given up. but they are 11th in terms of yards per play given up. They're just on the field way too much because their offense is putting them out there. This is a really good defense. And if the offense is able to control time of possession a little bit more, they're going to be even better. 6th in points per game, 5th in turnovers. Like they're there. They are there. It's just a matter of the offense giving them a shot to be more efficient.
And they have a favorable schedule to do it, like you were just saying. Like you're playing some pretty bad teams over the next couple weeks, and then there's very winnable games, even against teams
I would
with records.
argue New England. I feel better about them beating New England and Arizona, which is crazy to say right now.
Is it because
Or
Kyler
right
came
now?
back?
It would be crazy to say. Yeah, Kyler's playing very well. Arizona still only has 2 wins on the year. I just think that they're tougher to play defense against because of Kyler than New England's going to be.
Yeah, harder to contain for sure.
Yeah. And also, I want to ask you.
You literally have polar opposites at quarterback in back-to-back weeks, right?
Yeah, we don't even know who's going to be at quarterback for New England. Mac Jones did not throw a pass in practice today. It was Bailey Zappi and Malik Cunningham. So I don't know what's going to happen there. If it's Malik Cunningham, and actually kind of that does change things because that is the mobile quarterback that you're talking about. For anybody that doesn't know about Malik Cunningham, Louisville product, hasn't played. I think he played in 1 game this year. Was he even drafted? Was he like a 5th round pick?
I don't think he was drafted.
Okay. But anyway, he is potentially gonna play for. It's crazy how far down the totem pole Mac Jones has fallen. Looked like a serviceable.
Remember when everybody thought that
year.
was their best pick? Like the bet,
yeah,
the
like
best
they
pick
just
in
sat,
terms of like
they stood still and didn't have to move up to get like one of those Justin Fields, Trey Lance. Yeah, they didn't take the swing. They just stuck and picked. Mac Jones.
That 2021 quarterback class right now is looking atrocious.
Yeah, it is. Trenton Thompson, I wanted to bring him up. 2 back-to-back starts, played really well in both of them. Now Minkah Fitzpatrick coming back in the fold. I would like to think Trenton Thompson still is going to have a role. I mean, you look at, they don't have Keanu Neal, who's on IR, so he can maybe play that role, that third safety. He's a little bit lighter than Keanu. I think Keanu's got like 15 pounds on him, so I don't know if you can ask him to do like everything that Keanu Neal was doing in terms of like being that dime linebacker. But this matchup specifically, I look at Arizona has an emerging tight end, Trey McBride, really good. He's coming on. He's burst onto the scene this year. Been a go-to target for Kyler, and especially with the health of Hollywood Brown and Michael Wilson, another a rookie out of Stanford. Trey McBride's kind of been that guy. With the way that Thompson matched up against Njoku and played really well, and with the way that he kind of negated Cincinnati's tight ends, who's not a great room anyway, but I feel like that's kind of his specialty. You got to figure Trenton Thompson's still going to play a role on Sunday against Arizona because of Trey McBride's presence, even if Minkah's back in the fold, right?
I would think so. And I think that goes back to something that we talked about whenever we discussed what we thought the defense was going to do in the absence of Minkah, where you want to play your best players. You want to have them on the field, and I think Trenton Thompson has shown that he's one of your better players in that secondary, especially over the last couple of weeks, being able to show what he can do, especially with he got that key pick in that Bengals game as well. But I think absolutely, and also he is very lightweight. He's under 200 pounds. He's 109. He's listed at 196 pounds.
Keanu's like 211, I think.
Despite that, I still think that you could see him be the one to cover Trey McBride because of the success that he's had against those tight ends. And like I said, it just goes back to playing your best guys. And if he's the one with the hot hand right now, he's the one that's going out there on the field and performing the way that you want somebody to. I would fully expect the Steelers to be able to incorporate him still within the defense, even though Minkah is coming back, just because it just boils down to you want to put your best foot forward. You want to have the best players on the field as possible and get in those positions to where you're not having somebody just because they are in or out of position, I guess, or out of their natural position and necessarily. But despite that, he's performed well. I think he's earned that, and I think he's earned the role to be able to at least do it for this next upcoming Sunday.
What do you think about the linebackers? I mean, Michael Walker, Landon Roberts, we knew was going to have to play a massive role for this team when Cole Holcomb and then Quan Alexander went down in back-to-back weeks. Landon Roberts, we knew was going to have to play a huge role. There was probably a question in terms of how well he would play. That game against Cleveland was as good of a game as I've seen from Steelers linebacker in a very long time. And I thought he was solid against Cincinnati too. Obviously not as tested by them. But Michael Walker played 84% of the snaps against Cincinnati and then played basically the same 84% against Cleveland in the first start and then played a ton against Cincinnati too. Clearly he is the other starter next to Landon Roberts when we thought maybe it would be Mark Robinson or somebody else like an outside addition.
They shut that down.
Yeah, they shut it down very quick. What have you made, though, of that inside linebacker duo?
I thought it was good. Honestly, losing arguably your two best linebackers in back-to-back weeks, I wasn't sure what the Steelers were going to do. Wasn't sure what to expect from the room as a whole. I thought that could leave a gap over the middle of the field for the Steelers defense. But I thought that for the moves that they've made, I thought it was great. I thought that they looked really good in the absence of Cole Holcomb and Quan Alexander. And I'll say it's probably as good as I could have hoped to be able to replace those two guys in such a short amount of time with the stipulations that they had at hand, meaning like they were post-trade deadline, so they couldn't just go out and get somebody that way. They had to be creative of how they were bringing guys in and be able to replace those players. I think that they've done a good job of that. I think that they've done a good job on the field of being able to replace those guys. Obviously, you're not going to fully replace them over the course of the season. It's only been a couple weeks. But I think from what we've seen so far, I'm pleasantly surprised from what I've seen from the Steelers linebackers. And yeah, it was just kind of funny how immediately, I mean, even the week after, Robinson was not getting any run whatsoever.
Yeah, I know.
I don't even think did he even play a snap the week after Quan Alexander got hurt? I don't think he did.
Not on defense. Played some special teams, obviously, but he was doing that anyway.
Yeah.
So, now they've brought in Blake Martinez into the fold, who's on the 53. We'll see if he gets a helmet on the next game. We didn't think he'd be up to speed. Then Miles Jack is back on the practice squad, which is crazy. I'm not against it. I think that, it makes sense to have depth there. Miles was playing on like one leg most of last year too. Like, I don't know how many people know this, but like he had a groin tear on the left side of his leg. Like, so it was not obviously a full tear, but a partial groin tear. Playing through that not all of last season, but most of last season. What week would that have happened? Like 6? When did we play Tampa? I think it was like week 6-ish.
It was week 6 because I believe week 7 was when we lost to the Eagles, and week 8 was when we lost to Miami, and then we had our bye.
Yep. Look at that, just going right back to the 2022 schedule like it's nothing. So yeah, that was the game where he got hurt, and he played the rest of the year injured. So I don't know that we got the full version of Miles Jack, who I don't think is anything close to the player he once was in Jacksonville anyway, but he was even worse version of that last year. We'll see if we have to see him at all. Clearly he's not very high on the pecking order right now, but as we've also seen, hey, you can lose inside linebackers at any time. So we will see if we have to utilize his services at all this year. Where did I want to go with this? Oh, I want to talk about the offense again because of bringing up Pat Freiermuth. I don't know that we necessarily thought like, okay, he is the one guy that is going to benefit the most from moving on from Matt Canada. Obviously, we didn't have a conversation on here because, again, we didn't even have an episode until right now since Canada was fired. But I personally thought it was going to be, and not to say that they didn't they ran the ball well again, obviously. I thought with Eddie Faulkner taking over as OC, even with Sullivan being the one calling the plays, it was going to be the running back show. I thought we were going to see Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris all day. What do you make of the fact that Pat Freiermuth was so heavily involved in this game? Was it just, do you think it was an emphasis? Do you think it was him getting back fully healthy? Like, obviously he came back the week before, but hamstrings are tricky. Probably wasn't at 100%. What was the reason you think that Pat Freiermuth was clearly the emphasis of this passing game?
Well, I think that it was finally just Kenny targeting the middle of the field. Honestly, I think that routes were there, and we've seen routes be there over the middle of the field throughout the season. Not with Pat Freiermuth, just because he's been injured, but with other guys, the middle of the field has been open. But I don't think that Kenny has been targeting it, and I don't know for whatever reason if with Matt Canada being gone, it's like suddenly outside the hashes. Or in between the hashes, it was like an opening, and it was like curtains being drawn back, and it's like, oh, I can throw here. And I honestly, I feel like it has to do more with who Kenny was, or where Kenny was looking at to go through the ball with, more so than necessarily an emphasis of them trying to get Pat Freiermuth the ball. I'm sure they wanted to get him involved. He is a great player and is a big body. He's a mismatch with some of the guys that he goes against on defense, and he can really move the ball down the field. But I think that it was more so just a connection thing with him and Kenny realizing that he's going to be open over the middle of the field, because there was multiple connections with that. And it reminded me of that one throw in the preseason. Honestly, I forget who it was against in the preseason, but there was the one throw that was over the middle. It was like a 30-yard pass from Kenny to Pat Freiermuth. That's what it reminded me of watching it in this game. Is like, oh, that connection is still there. And I think that was partially Kenny remembering that he has that connection over the middle of the field. And maybe without Pat Freiermuth in there, maybe that's part of the reason that we didn't see him over the middle of the field more this season so far, is because Pat Freiermuth hasn't been there for a lot of it.
Yeah, like you mentioned, though, like guys have been open in the middle of the field. They're really not running weren't running a lot of like in-breaking stuff, though. You know, I really do think they made it a point, though, on the first play of the game, tight end target over the middle of the field. Like it seemed like that was what they wanted to do. I also think it was a product of what Cincinnati was giving them. You know, a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 6. They play a lot of 2 high safety. They'll like you can target the middle of the field with the defensive looks that they were giving them. You know, was Kenny going to take it? He did on Sunday. So, you know, credit to him. You got to tip your cap. I do think one area, and I don't obviously want to talk, like there is negative stuff to bring up, though. I mean, just being realistic, watching the game, he had a few misses. But one thing that I noticed too, and Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, I hope gets a head coaching job this cycle. It's seemingly going to be a bunch of them available, because I think he's one of the best, despite where that defense has played at this year. He had Kenny confused a lot with the sim pressures that he was throwing him. I mean, they were rushing like 4 guys, and you would think they were rushing 7 with the way Kenny was panicking at times. So he was fooling him for sure on some of those. And I didn't think Kenny looked super comfortable in the pocket at times. So there were still, you know, some lowlights to me about Kenny's game. But I think from start to finish, it was his most complete game since he's come into the NFL, despite the fact that he didn't throw a touchdown.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I think that's, how much can we say that is it correlation or is it causation that it happens the week after Matt Canada is gone? Like, is it because that he's gone that this happens, or is it just a coincidence?
Again, I think it goes back to the stuff that you can't measure, because I think the opportunities have been there, even with Canada as the offensive coordinator, for enough plays to be made to reach 400 yards or to score more points, and they're leaving them out on the field. But we don't know how those players felt with, you know, what was going on off of the field, or just morally where they were at. Like, it's hard to get into the head of players, but I don't know. I mean, clearly, though, again, you don't just overnight all of a sudden be able to go for 421 yards and the guy that was in charge prior not being there, and there not be some correlation. It's just a matter of, if it was, to me, play calling, like the sequencing of them, and them really having Cincinnati off balance, or if it was simply just the players playing better because of him not being around. I don't know. I think that's the question that we need answered, which we won't get an answer to.
Yeah, I saw a really funny TikTok, and it was a clip from it was a clip from The Office, and it was whenever Andy was the manager of The Office, and he extended a goal to the team, and they reached that selling goal in one day, and it just cut to him saying it took him one day. And it was like the Steelers breaking their 400-yard like streak.
Is that when he has to get a tattoo?
Yeah, that's when he has to get a tattoo. But it was like, it took him one day.
Yeah,
that's just how. I wonder if you were Matt Canada in that situation, how are you feeling watch? Because I'm sure he watched the game, seeing that they were able to move the ball, man.
I almost feel like he's just like in Virginia on a beach or something. Like I don't know. I don't know if he did watch the game.
Yeah, that's true. Also, another thing with his dismissal that I just wanted to bring up It is absolutely wild that the Steelers have not had a coordinator or a head coach that have been dismissed or fired or removed themselves, I guess, in this last case, since pre-World War II, with a United States involvement in World War II. World War II was going on, but the United States weren't involved yet. It was the second week of the season in 1941. Pearl Harbor wasn't attacked for another 3 months. And that's the last time that the Steelers have had an in-season firing or removal of a coach, of a coordinator or a head coach in season.
I feel really bad because I was laughing at what you were saying, and then you said Pearl Harbor. So let's get this out of the way. I do not want to be canceled. I was not laughing at the Pearl Harbor aspect of what you said there. Just the idea. Just the idea. Yeah, shout out to your grandfather. Thank you for your service. But just the idea that it's been that long. Think about how different the world was in 1941. And that was the last time that we could talk about the Steelers making a move similar to the one that
the
they made.
The Steelers were 8 years old.
Yeah.
They had only existed for 8 years.
You know how bad you have to be for the Rooneys to be willing to pay you to not coach? I know Mike Tomlin says he made this decision on his own. That's not possible. Like, he could have said, this is what I want to do. Are you okay with it? Am I allowed to do this? Rooney is still the owner and is still the one that has to pay the guy. Tomlin cannot make him do that to not coach. So regardless of what Tomlin says, there's levels to this. Rooney would still have to okay whatever it was Tomlin wanted to do, which in this case was fire Matt Canada. So thank you to both.
It's absolutely nuts. Absolutely.
And also thank you to Matt Canada for trying. I think
82 years ago.
Yeah,
was the last time it happened.
That is brutal.
Think about how many people you know. Think about how many people you know that are younger than 82. Probably most of the people that you know, they weren't alive whenever that happened.
Yeah. Man. I don't want to spend too much time on this. And every time I say that, we spend too much time on whatever it is that I bring up that I said I don't want to spend too much time on. But I feel like we have to at least touch on the Diontae Johnson stuff. I'm not talking about the touchdown that wasn't. They decided not to challenge.
Can we touch on the touchdown that wasn't real quick? Why do they struggle so much to challenge plays? Why do they why do they not have somebody that's on the staff that is specifically watching every single play to make a decision?
Well, there is somebody in the booth that's doing.
Well, he sucks.
Yeah. But Tomlin obviously, again, this is one of those things similarly to Canada where to me the failure was made not on Sunday, but before the season to not bring in somebody that actually specializes into that. Because it's somebody you said somebody just for that. So maybe I'm saying the wrong thing by saying there is somebody to do that because it's somebody that has other duties. They're just also in charge of that. We don't know who it is. It might be Glenn Thomas, honestly.
I think that they need to bring in somebody that their sole job is to watch replays to see if you need to challenge or not. And I think you need to take the executive power out of Tomlin's hand and you put it into this dude's hand. And once he gets into the headset of Mike Tomlin, whether he says yes or no, Mike Tomlin just listens. He doesn't second guess. He doesn't even have to give any thought into it. He just listens to what the dude says, and you go from there.
Here's the thing, and I might have changed my mind on this. I don't know that it gets overturned. And the reason I say that is Tomlin mentioned this on his press conference, Tomlin Tuesday. If they feel it's even close, they typically roll it a touchdown because then it's automatically reviewed, and they could say, okay, it's not. So then they'll take a look at it. If they roll on the field that that he didn't catch it, that he didn't complete the process, they're probably not overturning it, regardless of I know what Gene Steratore said, but he's not the one that's making that call. I don't know. I don't know if it gets overturned. I mean, it should have been. It was a wrong call on the field for sure. I just don't know that it gets overturned even if it's challenged. Because I saw people talking about the surviving the ground thing. I don't think that they realize that's if it's all in one once Diontae Johnson had that third foot down,
is the third foot out of the equation considered a quote unquote football move? Like getting a third foot down?
Yes. Then it becomes null and void the fact that he didn't survive the ground. Is the third foot. So basically what the officials were saying is he didn't get that third foot down and he didn't survive the ground.
Honestly, I don't even think the officials were thinking that. I think they just saw the ball come out. Initially. I think that they probably just saw him hit the ground and the ball came out, and so they just ruled it no catch. It probably wasn't until a replay that they saw that he got 3 feet down.
Anyway, that actually wasn't the Diontae Johnson thing that I wanted to talk about, because the very next play, Jaylen Warren fumbles, and maybe like Diontae Johnson, if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, originally I thought Jaylen Warren was down, and I'm like, what do they do? They're just, of course Cincinnati's going to complete the play, act like it was a fumble, but he legitimately did fumble. Diontae Johnson. Now, I will say this, and Charles Davis talked about this. I asked Alan about it because I had never heard this, but it is a legit thing. Mentioned, because my issue wasn't even necessarily with that, because I just thought he didn't see the ball. My issue was the fact that he wasn't blocking off the line of scrimmage. Like, it didn't look like he was interested in the play at all immediately from the snap. But there are plays where they will tell receivers, don't block, keep the cornerback thinking that you're maybe running a route, see if they get on their back pedal right away off the snap. If you immediately go into a block, it's going to give it away that it's a running play. So that makes sense to me. Maybe he was told not to block on the play, but everything that happens on that just seems like a very disinterested player on that very next play.
You're going to have a really hard time trying to sell me that he was looking like he was going to run a route.
No, yeah, he wasn't doing anything. I mean, he wasn't doing anything off the snap. So, that happens. Jaylen Warren fumbles the ball. Diontae's walking the opposite direction of where the ball is. And then he gets picked up by a Cincinnati player. And still, he's not running down the field to chase the guy. Connor Hayward, who was put on his back on the same play, gets up and ends up chasing the guy down, potentially saving a touchdown on this play, which obviously ended up being massive. Because who knows how the game plays out if that's the case. This is far more unacceptable. Like, people that want to bring up the drops or the running backwards, which happened for the first time this season on Sunday. That's not been a thing that I've noticed this year when watching live or watching the games back. To me, that's stupid. We're well past those times for Diontae Johnson. This cannot happen, though. And I mean, I'm completely fine with the way that Tomlin addressed it. I'm glad that Diontae Johnson addressed it both on Sunday and then again here today when he talked to the media. And to me, that should be the end of it. Whatever his teammates said, whatever his coaches said, as long as they felt like they got an acceptable answer and they feel like it's not going to happen going forward, he owes me nothing. So hopefully that is the case. We can put this to rest and it doesn't happen again. But in the moment, really bad look. And again, hopefully that's the only time that we see it, not just in 2023, but going forward.
Well, that's the thing. It can't happen again. If you're Diontae Johnson, you cannot let that thing happen again because you apologize for it twice in 1 week. You cannot let it happen again. And listen, I know some people were wanting to give Diontae Johnson the benefit of the doubt, saying even Diontae Johnson on Sunday said I don't know if he said he thought he was down or he didn't see the fumble, but you can clearly see. Even after his just walk forward at the DB, you can clearly see, if you just watch the replay slowly, when the ball pops out, you see his head move a little bit. Like, he clearly saw the football. The
better answer would have been saying he thought Jaylen Warren was down, but then you would be questioning.
But he said he didn't see the fumble.
Yeah, right.
And if he wants to say that, whatever. He clearly saw it, and if he thought he was down, then fine. You think he was down, but when you see everyone else start running, even if you thought he was down, and especially in the NFL where they let plays play out, and they've gotten into the habit of, if there's a turnover on the field where it could be questionable, they're still going to not blow the whistle most of the time to let the play run out. Don't you think you should start running if you just see everybody? Yeah, it was a bad overall play. It was not a pretty Sunday, especially for Steelers fans at Diontae Johnson with some of the stuff that happened in that game. That was just icing on the cake too.
Yeah, everything else was they were moving the ball so well, 400 yards of offense. Kenny was playing better. Like, everything that you wanted to be mad about, you really couldn't be on Sunday. So Diontae Johnson was public enemy number 1, 2, and 3 for Steelers fans in this game. Did make
Did
an
have a big catch
unbelievable.
though.
I was just saying, I don't know if, and I'm not even, you might be talking about the deep ball, that one
Yeah.
across the middle where he like picks it up off the ground and it's by his fingertips. Much more impressive, in my opinion, from an individual effort, because he saves Kenny from what should have been an incompletion. Don't know why the ball was thrown that low, but that's a catch not many guys make, but it goes unnoticed, which is fine. I feel like that's kind of been the theme here. But with Diontae, again, fair share of criticism absolutely is warranted on this particular play. But I think you can say that without making some like long-term projection or statement about like, this guy sucks, this guy needs traded, this guy is a cancer to the team. Like, these things are just simply not true.
I saw some like Twitter coach. I don't know, someone who is a coach, but they're probably more known for their Twitter presence than anything. Said, "Oh, I would have cut him right away."
Sure, yeah, I'm sure you would have.
Like I get being frustrated. I get it, but I mean, you just got to move on from it. He's still one of your best players. It was a crappy game for him, crappy effort on that play specifically. I mean, I think that's part of the problem too. Is like, it wasn't just the one thing. It was him having that play where he did run backwards, and then a little bit later he did have that touchdown that didn't end up being a touchdown, even though it should have been. It didn't end up being a touchdown, but Steelers fans.
Well, if he holds onto the ball, like it doesn't even put it in question.
There's no question on it. So Steelers fans are going to attack him on that too. So that was the second thing. And then after that, on the next ensuing drive, you have that happen. Oh man, that was it's just like bang, 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 1, 2, 3. Like you're adding fuel to the fire for everything against you when you're doing that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Move on from it.
Not a great couple series for him. But yeah, he's got an opportunity on Sunday to go right back and get things going and get back in good graces of everybody. Let's talk about that game now against the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, we mentioned 2-win team coming here to Acrisure Stadium, in the Arizona Cardinals very clearly not playing for anything in terms of the 2023 season, very much playing for something in terms of the 2024 NFL draft. That's for sure. So that doesn't necessarily impact. It's always an interesting conversation, right? The tanking stuff, because the players that are currently on the team still want to win right now. But, is the organization going to let them operate in such a way to be able to win games? Bringing Kyler back, though, and actually like having him be part of this process, to me, tells me that they're still competing right now. So it'll be interesting to see what Arizona Cardinals team shows up. Going to be interesting to see how healthy they are. But what are your thoughts on this game? Not just from, a score perspective, but also some things to look forward to, whether that's matchups or like one guy that you think is just due for a huge performance on Sunday or something like that.
I am really looking forward to watching Cam, or not necessarily one specific guy, but I just think the front line with like Cam Hayward and TJ against the Cardinals offensive line, which I think is a pretty poor unit overall. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. I think the challenge is
as good as Kyler is, he holds on to the ball a lot, like very long. Similarly to Lamar, like he tries to do too much sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that what I was about to say, like the challenge is still going to be like you have to contain him, and that's going to be a challenge for those outside guys. Like you can't let him break out in space because he's got the legs and the leg movement. Like he can dance around all day if you give him the time to be able to do so. So I think as far as like just like a unit perspective, that's the one that I'm looking for. Is seeing how much that front line is going to be able, that defensive line unit is going to be able to have an impact on the game, just because the Cardinals offensive line stinks. They do. There's no sugarcoating it. They stink. They should be able to get a lot of pressure on Kyler, and maybe they don't get like the sack numbers that Steeler fans might hope in this game because of the ability to escape that Kyler possesses. But I think that they're still going to get some pressure on him. And like you said, he likes to hold on to the football. I think that they could have a really big day. And with the way that the rest of the defense has been playing and potentially getting Minkah back with pressure on the quarterback, that really goes well for mistakes from a quarterback. We've seen that for several years against another mobile quarterback like Lamar. Lamar has not turned the ball over more against any other team than the Steelers, even only playing in 6 games against the Steelers compared to like 11 games against like the Bengals and Browns. So whenever they get those mobile quarterbacks, the Steelers have a knack to be able to get those guys to turn over the ball. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do from that perspective. Offensively, I want a big game from George Pickens. I've been craving it. I don't know why. And honestly, I think it's because like you get Pat Freiermuth back. He has a big game. We've seen some big games from the running backs. Diontae is doing his thing as outside of last week, I guess. But I just want a really big game from George Pickens. That's the one that I'm looking for. I want them to target. I know we're talking about targeting over the middle. I want them to really stretch the field in this game if they can. I want Kenny to look for some of those deep shots with George and to be able to take advantage of having a receiver like that.
So George had back-to-back games going over 100. He had 130 against Baltimore, then 107 against the Rams. Since then, 1 catch, 22 yards, 2 catches, -1 yard, 3 catches, 45 yards, 4 catches, 38 yards, 3 catches, 58 yards. So, yeah, I mean, I think that he probably is a guy that's due for, a breakout performance. But I'm going to say Diontae Johnson because of what we saw on Sunday, because he's been so talked about this week. I think there's going to be an emphasis on him early and often in this one to be able to bounce back. And I think it's going to be like not just him. When I say emphasis, I mean like everybody's going to want to pick him up. I think Kenny's going to want to get him involved super early.
Maybe it'll be like the first play of this last game.
Right. Yeah. Give him the opportunity to bounce back right away in this one. And he's got a history of doing this to the Cardinals. In rookie year, the last time that they matched up with the Cardinals, 172 all-purpose yards, returned a punt for a touchdown, and caught a touchdown from then quarterback to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Duck Hodges, in that one, Kyler's rookie year.
Man.
So I'm looking for Diontae Johnson offensively in this one. I already talked about the defensive matchup that I was interested in seeing. Trey McBride, like who is going to match up with him? That's why I think Trenton Thompson is still part of this game plan, even with Minkah coming back into the fold. I think Kyler, as talented as he is, holds onto the ball a little bit too long. I think you got some opportunities for sacks. I think if you get that pressure on him, you're going to also have opportunities for takeaways. So assuming Minkah does come back, I'm going to say he gets his first pick of 2023 as well. And as far as a score goes, I think, and this is bold for a Steelers prediction when you look at what they've done over the last few seasons, I think we're going to have a somewhat comfortable game on Sunday. Like they're going to win by 2 possessions, I think. They're not going to, score 30 plus points in my opinion, but I think it's going to be something like 26-13 where we're able to know very early in this game that you can just kind of sit back. The Steelers' defense is going to do their thing, and it's going to be a comfortable win, 26-13.
That would mean the Steelers would cover, and 26-13, that would mean that the under would hit. Currently in the game, the Steelers are 5.5-point favorites, and the total is set at 41.5. So they're really set, like at 5.5-point favorites, and the total is 41.5. You're really saying that this game is going to be somewhere around like 24-18, 24-19. Like,
and this is the Steelers at home only favored by, so that would be like 2.5 in a neutral site.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know,
I don't know how much do the sports books are they factoring into Kyler coming back and playing well. I don't know. I will say that I think the Steelers are going to have a comfortable game as well. I think that the Cardinals have no desire to win, despite what the players want to do. I don't think that organization wants to win. I think they're really going to be tanking and setting themselves up nicely for this upcoming draft. And I'll say that the Steelers are going to win this one. I think they win it comfortably with a score of 27 to, even number 10. I think this defense is going to have a good game.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out something real quick. So they're averaging 17 points a game with Kyler since he came back. That's against Atlanta, Houston, and the Rams. None of those defenses are close to Pittsburgh's. I don't see it. I know that the Steelers, again, they're in a lot of close games. They don't score a ton. I just have a hard time thinking that Arizona's offense is going to do much of anything against Pittsburgh's defense. And I think Pittsburgh is still going to be able to run the ball. Like if they were able to run the ball against these defenses they have, there ain't no way Arizona's going to be the one that stops them.
Well, now they're going to be the ones that stop them.
I mean, if it happens again, like I don't believe in these jinxes, so we can come back and revisit this.
I don't necessarily say that because of the what you just said, but because
Yeah.
they've been able to run the ball on defenses they haven't, now they're going to get stopped by an opponent that they shouldn't be. That's just kind of the way the Steelers go sometimes.
Yeah. Being Steelers fans means that you are probably more worried about this Cardinals game than you are like the Ravens at the end of the season. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, honestly. I'm honestly after the last like 3 years, I've never really been worried about playing the Ravens. I know we haven't won every matchup, but like they don't scare me.
If you're looking at the teams that they could potentially play in the first round right now, the Steelers, between Jacksonville, Baltimore, Kansas City, Miami, how would you rank them in terms of teams that you would want to play?
So like number one is the team I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go 4-1 then. I would go Kansas City, Miami, Jacksonville, Baltimore.
I think I'm right there with you. The one I was debating was honestly like Kansas City hasn't scored a ton in the second half this year. They're not the exact same offense.
I don't want to go to Arrowhead in January.
I know. Yeah, that's why but I was debating switching Miami and Kansas City, despite me thinking that Kansas City's still the most dangerous team in the playoffs. They still have Patrick Mahomes. It's all about matchups. And I just, does Pittsburgh, for as good as their defense is, have the ability to keep up with Miami's speed on the perimeter? I just think that they're a really bad matchup for them. I think they match up pretty well against Baltimore and Jacksonville. So I would say it's like those two are almost tied at the top, and then there's a gap. And then there's the next two are pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, Baltimore's an easy number one. I'm just so comfortable playing.
I mean, if you look at the Steelers schedule compared to Baltimore's schedule, Steelers very well still could end up being the ones to win that division, and Baltimore being the one to have to go somewhere else in to begin the playoffs.
And like you brought up earlier in the show, Lamar, honestly, knock on wood, we never want somebody to get injured.
Oh, I love Lamar.
But he hasn't been injured yet. So it's an anomaly right now that he has not had any injury that he's been knocked out with. So we don't even know that's going to happen with that. But yeah, I think that Steelers schedule coming up and the remainder of the season for some other teams, they're in a pretty good position right now. And honestly, for what we were expecting after the first few weeks, better position than I probably thought they were going to be in.
Yeah, there's just this newfound rejuvenation, if you will, because of the changes that they've made on offense. But yeah, anything else?
Nope. As far as Steelers goes, nope. Just go check out the links. I know Smitty's about to talk about that, but Rocking Around the 4-1-2 is you heard us talk about it. We sounded like a philanthropy podcast for the first 6 or 7 minutes. But Smitty's, if you're watching on YouTube, he's pointing out the Angel Tree stuff for the Salvation Army. But just go check out that link. We've only got a few weeks. For the Salvation Army, we've only have a few days.
One day. Friday's gonna be the last day that we can take donations for Salvation Army.
Yeah, so we're only gonna have a day or so from whenever this comes out. But as far as the whole mission goes, we'll be able to do that until December 11th. Smitty actually set a hard date this year. We are kind of more so go with the flow with that, but we have a hard date of December 11th. So we still have 2 more weeks.
In the past.
We still have 2 more weeks to be able to do that. We'd love to be able to get in another family. So if you want to continue to roll in those donations, that would be such an amazing thing. Like we said, this is our baby. This is something that we look forward to every single year. We kick it off in July, and I can't believe that it's already almost December and it's going to go away. But that means we're just one day closer to year 7 of Rocking Around the 4-2. Then before we know it, we're going to be at 10 years.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and sometimes I get stressed out, but I just got to think about the end goal. And, it's stress on me for a little bit of time. These people that we're doing this for live with stress pretty much every day of their lives. So it's the least amount that I can do and the least amount that we can do. And again, we're just a vessel. We are the people that put this together, but it's your guys' money that goes to making this all happen. So we can't thank you guys enough. Again, we've raised over $30,000 since this mission started in 2018, which, like, saying that number makes no sense. There's been some obviously repeat families and stuff. I'm going to try to get a number for next episode to give you guys just a rough idea in terms of how many people have been impacted. I can tell you for sure 25 kids from the Salvation Army are going to be opening up gifts on Christmas thanks to you guys. And 25 was a number that I was hoping to get to. We only originally took 12. So
are we at 28 now?
Well, 28 kids total because 3 are from
20.
a separate family. But just with the Salvation Army, I'm talking about here.
Gotcha.
Because I wanted to get to 25 in my own head. I was just like, 25 is the number I want to be at because of 25 days of Christmas. As stupid as that sounds, that was just the number that I wanted to get to. So when we were at 20, or we went from 12 to 18 to 20 to 25 was what we were at, just as donations continue to come in. And we wouldn't be able to do this without Kaylee. Shout out to Kingsley, who I went to high school with, who took a tag. Taylor Brown, who's may or may not be watching this show right now. His dad, David, took a tag. Tracy Nazem took a tag. I'm just trying to shout out people that took tags as well. And then Kaylee, Penny, who was Dalton. We talk about Dalton all the time, a big part of the Salvation Army stuff and why we do it. His mom took a couple tags. His sister took a tag. So all these people, again, this is why I get emotional talking about it, is because of all the people that have gotten involved with it. It going from me, Tyler, and Herb putting it together and having, I don't know, what was it, like maybe 15, 20 people donate, to having, the 1 year, 2021, where we raised $11,000 that year. There was 131 different people that donated that year. This year we have 52 people through GoFundMe, another 10 that have Venmo'd me.
54.
And then 54 people have donated through GoFundMe, another 10 that have Venmo'd me. And then again, those people that are taking the tags that are hard to quantify because Kaylee's passing them out. So I'm not sure who all has gotten them. I just said the names of the people that I know for sure have taken them.
We can add one more donation. Shout out to Mary King. She's an older woman from my church. She gave $20 to my dad on Saturday. Okay. So my dad lumped the $20. My dad lumped the $20 into his donation.
It was a random number. Yeah, I was confused by that.
He lumped the $20 into his donation because he asked me when I was there for Thanksgiving. He's like, "What do I do with this?" And I'm like, just add it to the money that you were already going to donate. So yeah, shout out to Mary King. She's a Monaca resident, by the way. So hometown
even better.
Girl.
No, not ever equal, better, but equal. But no, everybody that's been a part of this mission, again, we can't thank you enough. You got a couple more days, maybe just one more day to donate if you want to be involved, specifically the Salvation Army stuff. But again, Rocking Around the 412 as a whole, you can still donate to until December 11th. The GoFundMe link is in the description. Haley also has donated to that and been a part of that in the past. So shout out to her. Her Etsy and Facebook shops are below for her small business, Everything Custom Designs. You mentioned the stockings. She's also doing Christmas like bags, which are cool. So
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to put like a customized one for your child to put all their gifts in a big bag, to be able to much easier on Christmas Day than, like these boxes that I have or anything like that to put gifts in. So you can get one of those or a stocking. They look really good. Pristine from Haley. But yeah, you just can't get a hat. So that's about it though. Everything else pretty much you can get.
Not even a Santa hat. We were hoping, but
I was holding out hope. I was waiting for the Facebook post about it, but never came. But other than that, for Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. Jump over to another video that is popping up on your screen right about now, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.